What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Crafted in Florida. My little girl is graduating out of her crib, and it's time to build her a big girl bed. But her daddy's a carpenter. She's not getting some normal bed. She's gonna get this. Alright, we're gonna jump right into this project. First thing we want to do is get that castle going. So I'm cutting some MDF to size so I can throw it on my CNC and use these programs that I've got to cut out the pieces of the castle. First pieces are going to be the end pieces, kind of would be the rooks in chess if you ever played chess before. Get those cut out, flush trim bit, gets all the edges cleaned up, and it's time to move on to the main castle. Now the main castle, we had a little dust collection issue with the CNC, so you can see it got a little dusty in there. I've since fixed that issue, and it had no effect on the cutting. I think the cutting turned out great. The file I had didn't allow me to cut all the way through and keep the entire castle as one piece, so I cut it most of the way through, left enough, about a quarter of an inch, so I knew that there'd be a good connection between all the different parts of the castle. I came back through with the jigsaw to cut it all out, so I have one big castle silhouette. Jigsaw is great for working through those tight little corners, making all those turns. And once we get it all cut out, we'll have one solid castle piece to add to the top of the bed. It's going to be the main point, so it's got to look good. This is what she wants. She's really into all the Disney princess stuff right now, so having a nice castle as her main focal point of her bed, I think it's really going to get me a smile on that little girl's face. If you want to put a smile on my face, hit that subscribe button, and I'll definitely smile. Now that we got this castle cut out, we've got a nice silhouette there. Man, that thing's going to look good once we get it all painted up. Look at that. Alright, now that it's cut out, onto the flush trim. The palm router is the way to go. Get yourself a good flush trim bit. Make sure it's supported as you're pushing around all those tight little corners there. And it makes it all a lot smoother. Onto the cabinets. The cabinets are the base of this, and they've got to be able to hold up that entire bed. And even though my daughter is a small little girl, there's no doubt she's going to want mommy or daddy to lay with her until she falls asleep. So it's got to be real sturdy. Cut all this plywood up. I'm marking right there 3/8 of an inch because I want it centered on the plywood. It's 3/4 inch plywood. We're going to go simple glue and screw construction. The glue is going to be the long-term strength. The screws are going to hold it all in place, and we'll add a little bit of extra sturdiness to this cabinet. It's important though that I don't want these screws to be seen later on, so I'm going to countersink all the screws. I've got a little countersink bit that I'm using on that drill right there, and then driving those screws beneath the surface, and I'm going to fill them in later with a different type of filler. I will, in the next couple of weeks, probably be putting out a video on what type of fillers I use and what I use them for, because different occasions call for different types of fillers. So look out for that. It'll be real helpful for not only if you're doing a cabinet project like this, or if you're doing different trim work. I've done a lot of all of it, and so I can tell you that there are fillers that are better for different situations. Now the construction of this is to have a shelf in the front that you can see from the outside, and then have some shelves under the bed inside. That'll kind of be her little play area where she can store her other toys. Framer square helps keep everything straight and square. And then again, we're just going to countersink those screws in there. Onto the bed frame. Now I'm just going to use 2x4s for the bed frame. Get it all put together. Makes things nice and sturdy. A little bit of extra strength when, she wants mommy to sleep in there with her or daddy to lay down until she falls asleep. it's good to have that extra strength there. Plus, she's got a big brother that'll probably be jumping on that bed. So we want to make sure it's got plenty of strength on it. The plywood on the outside is more of a decorative piece and kind of helps hold the mattress in place. So we're going to do pocket holes to hold that all together, and we're going to snack on some pretzels while we do it. Pub style pretzels. Those things are so good. Wife brought some by, finished an entire bag in like a day and a half. But I did get the castle bed put together, and it is looking good. Once we get that thing painted up, man, it's really going to pop. You can see there the shelves, shelving space underneath, and shelving in the front, and a nice castle as the centerpiece. Now you can't throw your bed right on the 2x4s because if you don't have a box spring, whenever you put your knee on the bed or you're stepping on the bed or whatever, you're probably going to push in between all those slats. So I got to put some slats on there and enough to get the entire bed area covered so that whenever she's stepping on it to move into place, she doesn't step right through it. I got this thing prepped for paint. I went ahead and painted spots that I want to do paint, and then I taped them up. That way I can just go ahead and spray the whole thing. We're going to lay this thing with some primer first. It's already been sanded, blown it all off. It is ready for paint. Let's get spraying. There it is, and I tell you that pink really looks good. It is nice and bright, and it's really going to fit good in her room. And you can see her room right here. We're going to pull that carpet out. Wife said, hey, if we're going to put this big piece in there, I want to change the floors before we do that. Otherwise, we won't be changing the floors until she outgrows that bed. So, out comes the carpet. Now, with the carpet, it's going to have padding underneath. It's going to have tack strips holding it on around all the corners. So, you need to make sure that you take those off. Here's how you do it. Alright, so what we're doing here, carpet came up real easy. You have your padding underneath, and then you have what's called tack strips. The tack strips are going to go all along the border. That's what the carpet was supposed to be grabbing onto. I don't know how well the guy before me installed it because it came up like that. Good for this situation, not good if you're installing it. Anyway, when you are removing it, simple little pry bar, work it up, and just pop that thing up. If you know another way to do it faster, let me know in the comments, but as far as I know, you just get underneath it. The key here is all these tiny little nails that are holding the tack strip in place. You got to get those out because when I'm laying the tile after this, if those are in the way, it's going to slow me down a lot. Because obviously you can't lay the tile on top of the nails that are sticking out. So you want to make sure that all those are removed. It's best to do that as you're going. And if you forget, definitely do a check before you move on. So I'm going to finish up the rest of this, get all that up, and then we'll have a pretty clean slate to work with for our tile. And there we have a nice clean slate to work with. Solid concrete floor. Time to add some tile. Now with this tile we're going to add, we want thin set as our mortar. That's what's going to hold the tile in place. When you're mixing that up, you want a peanut butter consistency, so thick enough that it holds together, not too thick that you can't spread it around. So typically you would run your tile all the way and then come back and start a new row, but it's kind of late at night. I didn't want to be cutting a whole bunch, so I went ahead and just started making rows, but I did make sure I was square all the way down. Alright, so after your tile has dried, your thin set's dried, you got to put grout in, okay? So when we add grout, mix it up, same thing, peanut butter consistency, throw some out on the floor, take your float and move the grout across at an angle, right? You want to be moving as much grout as you can, and it should fall into the cracks from there. Your float should be at a 45-degree angle pushing the ground around and try to move across. You want to move across the joints, not along the joints. And then we have the tile in there. Once you're done with the grout, make sure you mop a couple times because it's going to need it. Now I've got the cabinets in place. I went ahead and put the frame portion of the bed up there. It's time to get the outside part of the castle onto the framing. Now I had to take the castle part out, the main castle, because it was too tall and wasn't going to fit through the doorway. But that made it a little bit easier to be able to grab both sides of it. Having worked by myself for a long time, I'm used to moving around big, awkward pieces by myself. So lots of maneuvering, shifting, ducking under stuff. Then I was able to add that castle back, and then it's just a matter of getting it to fit right over that 2x4 construction. I made it tight on purpose. I wanted it nice and snug on that 2x4. I know it fits because I had it in there in the shop. So it's just a matter of banging it around, making it fit by force if you have to. But it did eventually get in there after a lot of loving. Sometimes you just got to get over there and put your whole weight on it. And then pinched my leg really stinking bad. But we got it done. The castle is in place and it is time to move on to the stairs because my little girl's only 3. She can't jump all the way up onto that bed. So I made her a set of stairs. 2x10 stringers and then white oak stair treads. But because I know that she'll probably be getting up in the middle of the night like most toddlers do, I'm also adding some motion activated lights for that staircase. You can see the kids made it home. They had been out of town for a while with Granny, and so they got home and saw it a little bit before it was completely done, and were super excited. So there was no getting around the fact that they were going to be around while I was adding these stairs, climbing on my back, playing in the bed, doing whatever they can just to be in the room. And it's great. I love my kids, and I want them to have an appreciation for stuff that can be built by themselves. And so I want to show them. I don't mind them climbing on stuff, even though my daughter did drop my nail gun at one point. Alright, that's a wrap on the princess bed. Little girl's going to enjoy this. Her brother's already trying to get up in here and sleep in the bed because it's obviously the coolest bed in the house now. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, share it. For more info, visit our website, craftedinflorida.com. Until then, we'll see you next time.